Trump's clandestine meeting with the Russians. We'll play a round of healthcare who's to blame. And the truth of the left's systematic intolerance. That all coming up next on The Michael Newman Show.
Access denied.
I did not go.
Don't tase me, bro. No. Don't tase me.
No.
Ow!
What difference at this point does it make?
I feel terrible.
How is that okay?
I know words. I have the best words.
I am acting here.
I'm melting!
I've got a lot of things on my plate.
This isn't food!
This is garbage.
Shut up. Because I think that's what you are entitled to.
Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
This is not funny.
The Michael Newman Show is on for you, my friends. Michael Newman Productions is my website. Please go there to get the links for today's stories that we talk about. You can contact me, email. You can check out my social media. Follow me on Twitter, Newmaniac1. Check the services link. And please, please, please support the show. Click support. That takes you to Patreon, tells you all about it, and you can keep me going for as little as $1 a day. Well, the news just keeps on coming now, doesn't it? Trey Gowdy just the other day made the comment that, what Trump needs to do is get everybody that he's involved with, everybody in his cabinet and his campaign, everybody that he knows, everybody he's ever heard of since he was a zygote, get him into a room and say, what Russia contact have you ever possibly had? Have you seen a Russian movie? Have you noticed Russian hookers? Ever had any of that? Whatever it is that involves Russia, gather it up, and then we'll hand it over to the prosecutor. He says he needs to do that because this whole Russian investigation, this drip, drip, drip of information is undermining the presidency. And when he said it, I made the comment that that was stupid, and it is continuing to be stupid because it doesn't matter the context of the information. If the left has to make it up, they will make it up, right? So whether you turn something over or not doesn't have a political effect. It's not about the Russian controversy. It's about the controversy. That's the point of the entire Russia investigation, Mueller and Comey and all the boys. It's about the controversy. The point is not to get to the bottom of election fraud. They don't care about that. The Democrats are the queens of election fraud. They love election fraud. As a matter of fact, they fight tooth and nail for against any initiative that would thwart election fraud in this country, because that's how they get elected, is through fraud. So they don't care about election fraud. What they care about in this case is the controversy, and they're going to keep that controversy going. President Donald Trump spoke briefly with Vladimir Putin at the G20 dinner in Hamburg, Germany. On July 7th, you bastard! A dinner attended by hundreds, including world leaders and their spouses. The Russian president was seated next to Trump's wife. So at the end of the dinner, Trump popped around and said hello. Cue the hysterical mainstream media. What? He talked to Putin? He's a Putin talker. You're a Putin talker. That's the new thing. You Putin talker? I just came up with that. You can use that if you want. Just spread it around. Put my name out there. Newman Putin talker. And of course, they're going all around CNN. Oh, this is such a breach of protocol. And I can't believe it. It's the president at a informal forum. And if he wants to say hi to somebody, there's no reason why he can't. As a matter of fact, it's sort of his job to do so as president of the United States. This is another one of those situations where it wouldn't be a big deal if it was their guy. Matter of fact, it wouldn't be a deal at all if it was their guy. You wouldn't hear about it. What, if Obama was like, he talked to Putin? Who cares? No one cares because there's no controversy here. The left and the media and the CNNs of the world are literally doing their very best to contrive whatever controversy they possibly can. CNN's political commentator David Gergen helped out a whole lot in a report Tuesday detailing this meeting, this clandestine get-together. I wonder if they were all wearing, like, the fedora. Isn't that what you wear in the 50s if you're a spy? You got a fedora. Maybe everybody in the 50s wore a fedora. I don't know. When did that go out of style? I know that I don't look good in a fedora at all. So Anderson Cooper sat there and he asked him a question. It's part of the president's duties to interact with world leaders, adding that it was just a brief conversation at the end of dinner. That's what the Trump team said. I mean, it was an hour long. That doesn't sound all that brief. And is this a breach of protocol?
Listen, it is the president's duty to circulate and to meet foreign leaders in an informal, pull-aside way, as Jim Sciutto called it. But it's entirely inappropriate for a president to sit down in the way Donald Trump did with Putin. If the president had brought his own interpreter, so there were two people there, one in America.
Okay, why is it inappropriate? You come up with this claim. It's entirely inappropriate. Why? If it's inappropriate, that means that there is a negative outcome that could be asserted by this action happening. So if the president talks to another world leader and all the protocols aren't followed, then, well, everything could crumble to the ground, apparently. That's what you're saying. Exactly what protocol was breached, and in what way can that breach of protocol affect the rest of us? That's the question.
And one in a Russian interpreting. You had a record on the American side. And if the White House had...
Okay, maybe they don't want a record. There's not a record of everything that is said. As a matter of fact, there's a bunch of stuff that are said between world leaders that the rest of us are never, ever, ever privy to.
Then disclosed it, I think we would be saluting the president for having yet another hour with Putin. But the way in which he did it, leaving the Russian interpreter, which is, I can't remember a time when I...
Why does it matter that there was one interpreter? I would think that Vladimir Putin, with his dealings as an international guy, might know a little bit of English, so he could probably figure out what Don was saying. And God knows what the context of the conversation was. They could have been talking about a golf swing, for Christ's sake. Who knows what they were talking about? And if Don felt it was necessary in an important, pertinent negotiation to have someone other than the Russian interpreter there, then he would have had someone there. But he didn't. He was making his point. I mean, is the Russian interpreter a spy? Is he... What are we talking about here? Is the Russian interpreter not going to interpret Vladimir Putin's words properly? Is he not going to interpret Donald Trump's words properly? Is that what you're asserting, that you need somebody else in the room? I mean, he's an interpreter, for Christ's sake. As a matter of fact, I would think it would be protocol for interpreters to forget about everything that they heard. Right? They're not there making policy. They're there to translate one language into another and to do it in the most accurate possible way to ensure proper communication. That's their entire job. Their entire job isn't to testify as to what they think they heard while they were interpreting two languages at once.
A new American president, first meeting, has allowed the interpreter from the other side, from the Russian side, to be the only person in the room. There have been times in the past when Vernon Walters, for example, earned the trust of both sides, and it was a rare thing that the Russians allowed to have Vernon Walters interpret for both sides in presidential meetings. But it just does not happen. It is abnormal, and it is not appropriate for his duty, and then not to disclose it only arouses further suspicions about what the hell is Donald Trump's obsession with Vladimir Putin, and why won't he be straightforward about it?
Whose obsession are we talking about here? Is it obsession of Donald Trump? I mean, I don't know that he's staying up at night tweeting directly at Vladimir Putin, or maybe sitting shirtless on the side of his bed just waiting for Vladimir Putin to give him a call. It seems to me as if there's an obsession over Donald Trump and Russia, and an obsession based on your own personal aggrandizement. See, you're making money off of creating controversy because it's all you've got. That's it. You are the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, and you are a disgrace. That includes everyone who claims to be a quote-unquote journalist at CNN and the rest of the left-wing media. And David Gergen, you should probably just shut up, right? Because everything you just said was horse hooey. It was hooey, I tell you. Just a bunch of hooey. Moving on. Tensions reach new high between Trump and the GOP. This is according to TheHill.com. Trusted name in news. Tensions are building between President Trump and the Senate Republicans. White House officials are blaming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for getting stuffed at the goal line on Obamacare's repeal and replace legislation, while GOP senators say Trump failed to provide any meaningful political momentum for this prized measure. This was not a prized measure. That's the point. Notice how everyone, it came out, was it noonish yesterday at some point in time? Maybe it was a little before that, maybe like 11 o'clock. The story was McConnell said, okay, we're going to have a straight up or down vote to completely repeal Obamacare with no replacement. No one's talking about that now. No one's talking about that now. All they're talking about is the Senate bill that failed. They're not talking about the big story, which is Obamacare in its entirety could be going away because the American people demanded it and would accept absolutely nothing less. And understand that this bill that McConnell and the boys put forward is much, much less. In fact, it doesn't even remove Obamacare. Most of Obamacare stays in place, and it's certainly not going to fix our health care problems. So this was a win, ladies and gentlemen. Not a win if you love Obamacare, not a win for those people, but a win for the people that absolutely hate Obamacare and are tired of waiting on the Republicans to do what they said that they would do for the past 7 years, and that's completely dismantle Obamacare. This is a win in not passing the GOP establishment plan. You're preserving the opportunity to completely dismantle Obamacare and start from scratch. That's what we're pushing for here. It's not a loss. This is what needed to happen in the first place. Passing the establishment bill had McConnell and the boys got it through the Senate and then it got through the House and signed by Mr. Trump himself, then we would be in a world of trouble, because then Obamacare doesn't go away. It gets solidified by both parties. It systematically gets worse and worse over time. The private insurance industry goes away. Insurance or health care, the actual care costs go skyrocketing through the roof. And the next thing you know, the only way you can get health care is through a Bernie Sanders style, VA style, nationalized single payer health care system, which will kill millions of people in this country. So we won in not passing this garbage crap bill. Another piece here from Roll Call. That should be like a publication from R. Lee Army, shouldn't it? Didn't he have wasn't that one of his shows, Roll Call? Or something like that on History Channel? R. Lee, gotta love that guy. He used to own a whorehouse. That's a fact. It's like a real fact. Like in Asia, someplace he had with prostitution. I like that guy. Politicians and pundits criticize Majority Leader Mitch McConnell for his legislative tactics. Mitch facing mounting criticism from politicians and pundits on both sides of the aisle after the collapse of this Republican healthcare overhaul. Before the bill was pulled on Monday night, Senator Ron Johnson told a local newspaper that McConnell's conflicting statements to different members of its caucus were a significant breach of trust. This is how politics has worked in Washington for a long time, and that is, I'll tell this guy one thing, I'll tell that guy one thing, and we'll end up not giving either side what they want, and we'll get what we want, and we'll just pound checks. We'll take taxpayer money straight to the bank. And it didn't work in this case because this Obamacare thing is such a powder keg. That it is going to be a complete and utter disaster for the Republican Party if they don't completely repeal Obamacare. Senator Jerry Moran, whose decision to oppose the overhaul was one of the votes that killed it, criticized his closed-door process that McConnell used to draft the bill. Why did McConnell want to do these things in a closed-door process? Do you have any idea? Because they don't want to get rid of Obamacare. This, for Mitch McConnell, was a way to spend a lot of money and pay off a lot of people. He doesn't give a good goddamn about your health, how much you pay for your health care, and whether or not you live or die. He's just like everybody else in Washington, including Pelosi and Obama and Hillary Clinton and everybody else out there. They are elitists. They believe themselves to be better than you, and it's all about this legislation, this stuff that they do, these programs that they put together are designed specifically so they can, number one, control you, and number two, live off you. Remember, these people don't do anything for a living. They don't produce anything in society but politics. That's all they do. That's all they do. They've never produced anything. So they have to live off you. The Mitch McConnells of the world are charity cases. They're the biggest welfare queens on the face of the planet. So it's their job to use the power of government and the point of a gun to steal money from you so they can survive. That's who they are. Now, Senator Tim Scott tweeted out some explanations in regards to health care and why things went down the way they went down. He said, when I was elected to Congress in 2010, along with the record-breaking freshman class, the majority platform was the repealing of Obamacare and national debt. Not everyone got to keep their doctors, and they weren't able to keep their plans, he said. These are facts. You can't argue with them, and that's how healthcare system shouldn't work. But he makes the point that it's now a government entitlement, and it's very difficult to get rid of government entitlements. I disagree. Now, traditionally, yeah, getting rid of government entitlements once they've been solidified for a long time are difficult to get rid of because people get used to them and they think it's their right. In this case, it's very, very different because once Obamacare was passed and went into law, the very next election, the very next one, the next opportunity that Americans had to speak out, they ripped the House away from the Democrats and gave it to the Republicans. The next election after that, they ripped the Senate away from the Democrats and gave it back to Republicans. The next election after that, they ripped the presidency away from the Democrats and gave it back to the Republicans on the promise that Obamacare was going to go away. And now it's incumbent upon the Republican Party to do what the hell they said that they were going to do and completely dismantle and remove Obamacare from existence. Anything short of that will ensure the complete and utter destruction of the Republican Party. That's the truth. But they don't want to, okay? They don't want to. They like Obamacare. They like controlling a sixth of the economy. They like death panels. They like being able to decide who lives and dies in this country. They like the power. They love the power. It's pretty amazing. And when there's huge problems in this country, we can start pushing for ways to solve them. Unless the problem is a systematic desire to maintain the status quo, meaning the problems that you and I face are good for government. President Trump's famous border wall may be less big and beautiful than he imagined, with the House panel on Tuesday advancing a bill that would allocate funding for just 28 miles of the new wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. 28 miles. No full funding, nothing really happening. The Republicans do not want to stop illegal immigration. It's that simple. They've been fighting it forever. They want open borders just like the Democrats do. Because if there's open borders and all the third world nations start rushing into the United States, they will begin to displace and dilute the middle class in America. And suddenly there is a giant chasm. There is a giant gap between the people, the workers, you and me, and then the people that govern. A giant gap. You will never be able to jump that gap. And they will finally have their utopia, the Wilsonian progressive utopia, where just the smart people, just the people that went to the right colleges, just the people that they know personally have the right to make every decision in the lives of every person that's beneath them, meaning you and me. That's the point of open borders, to dilute the middle class, to make it non-existent. And it works. We've seen it work. Look at California, for Christ's sake. California is a disaster because of illegal immigration. There's a ton of money in California, but it's concentrated in a very, very small group of people, and that's the way they want it to be. They don't want other people to be able to speak or say things or have an opinion. How dare you? You're beneath us. That's the way liberals, that's the way progressives, and frankly, that's the way most of the Republican Party thinks as well. So they're not funding the wall. But I tell you what, I really can't blame Mr. Trump on this. I can't. He seems like he's pushing for the things that should be done. He seems like he's trying to move forward, especially on the immigration side. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director Thomas Homan. Is it Homan or Haman? Call him Homan. On Tuesday said that he plans to further crack down on undocumented immigrants by spending more resources and agents to sanctuary cities. Quote, "In the America I grew up in, cities didn't shield people who violated the law. What I want is to get a clear understanding from everybody, from the congressman to the politician to the law enforcement to those who enter this country illegally, that ICE is open for business. We are going to enforce the laws on the books without apology. We will continue to prioritize what we do, but it's not okay to violate the laws of this country anymore, and you're going to be held accountable." Thank you very much, sir. Wonderful words. Wonderful words that frankly, I'm giving you credit because I haven't really heard those words said before. They're wonderful words. Now let's back it up. Let's make sure that happens. Finally, someone in government doing what they're paid to do. It's very refreshing, isn't it? So that's the issue. I don't believe the Republican Party, the establishment of the Republican Party, has any interest in reducing the size of government and in solving these problems, because they have the same goal in mind as the Democrat Party, and that's eliminating the middle class, making everyone poor, and then preserving power for the elite so that they can live off of everybody else. They will be the slave masters, and we will be the slaves in the field, and that's how it works in Europe, and that's how it's going to work here. That's what they want. We have to fight back. And part of the way they're going to do it is culturally and through the things that people say and just, we're elitists and we've thought about these things and we've read about them in many leather-bound books and in rooms that smell of rich mahogany. And now we will make some wide sweeping changes because we've decided to and we're smarter than you. Former Xerox CEO Ursula Burns. I kind of like that name. I don't know, there's something wrong. Well, Ursula, was Ursula the big bad on Little Mermaid? Was that Ursula? Was it? I don't know. I don't know if it was Ursula or not. But Ursula, kind of a mean sort of Russian name, Ursula, just the masseuse you don't want to get, right? And then Burns, of course, Mayor Burns. From, was it Mayor Burns? No, it's not Mayor Burns. It's CEO Burns, whatever it was from The Simpsons. Bad guy. I'm Mr. Burns. Ursula Burns. I mean, shoot, it's a great bad person name. Now, am I saying she's a bad person? No, I just think she's a typical liberal, a typical probably Ivy League educated idiot. Former Xerox CEO Ursula Burns spoke on CNN's Poppy Harlow show about women's issues in the business industry. She gets asked the question by Harlow, "You said recently structural businesses are still made for men. It's still, why is that?"
Generally it's because it's run by men still. And they don't have a clue what structurally made for women is about. And they are generally not, I'm going to get tons of crap on this, but I'm going to say it anyway. They generally don't give a hoot. And about the structural changes needed. They care about women, but we're asking them to do some pretty hard things here.
We're asking them to do some pretty hard things here. Yes, you are. You're asking us to care about something that you cannot clearly define in terms other than group politics. Structural changes for women. What does that mean? Specifically. And why should we do it? Why should we care whether you have a penis or a vagina? That sounds very sexist to me when it comes to the idea of a work relationship. I don't care what you're carrying in your crotch. All I care about is that you produce something, that you do what I'm paying you to do, whether you are black, white, Asian, sexy, not sexy, fat. I don't care what, smelly, well, maybe not smelly, but, you know, because smelly guy in the office, you know, reeks of pork rinds. He better be producing. That's all I got to say. Why should any of those things matter? Only thing that should matter is what you produce. And when you start adding these caveats, that means productivity goes down because you're systematically putting in people who are less qualified that don't produce as much because you have some sort of greater moral authority that you're attempting to fulfill. Men don't have a clue what structurally made for women is about. You're right, and neither do you. Because it's all made up. This whole structure, this society structures and these things and these structures and these things are very nebulous and it's hard to put it. No, they don't exist. It's a construct. It's made up out of their mind so that they can create a scenario by which sexism and racism exist. They don't actually exist anymore. Not on a grand scale. Not in the United States of America. They don't exist. But they have to create this sort of structural pattern. Okay, well, you may not think you're racist. You may not even act racist, but you're really being racist, and it's all garbage. It's non-definable. And yes, it's very difficult. You're asking us to do some very difficult things, and that is reach into your mind and glean from your insane notions, from your drug-fueled hallucination of how we should structure a business. Why would we do that? They care about women, but they don't give a hoot about the structure. That's an interesting thing that you have to say. You're admitting they care about women. Okay. Well, isn't that all you want? Whether your boss is a man, a woman, some sort of three-toed sloth, as long as they actually do care about your position there, they care about you as a person and they want to treat you the right way. If their intentions are in the right place, and they truly are, they're probably going to make decisions to the best of their ability to accommodate you, correct? But they don't give a hoot about the structure because the structure doesn't exist. And people like this are given a platform. It's amazing to me. Ursula Burns continues, you see, women don't actually have a voice.
The woman, we have this health, the women's health discussion that's happening in Washington, the health discussion in the women part of it. So they call people who would be important to listen, the president called people who would be important to listen to come in and talk about it. So somebody had a camera watching the people as they left the meeting. It was really interesting to realize that there was not one woman in the meeting talking about women's health issues. And this is part of the problem with business as well sometimes, is that there is a lack of a clear voice, clear understanding and a clear voice in the room about what's actually happening.
You know, the fact is that it sort of undermines your entire argument. The argument is that men couldn't possibly make decisions for women because they don't care and we're in a sexist society. That's her argument, right? But when... Okay, I had a phone call. Caught me mid-sentence, caught me mid-thought. I have no idea where I was at. We're talking about Ursula Burns. Did we play the second piece? God, I hate everyone. I really do. I'm literally going to have to go back. Should I go back and listen? Or are we done with Ursula Burns? All right, you know what? How about this? We're done with Ursula Burns. I don't even want to go on with Ursula Burns, but we will continue on the topic of leftism here. Because this entire structure that they put together, putting people in categories, and the words that they use, and the phraseology that they use, is all code for different things. When they start shouting racist, homophobic, all those sort of epitaphs that they spew at people to rob them of credibility, that is no different than calling them the N-word. It's the same thing. Racist is the new N-word. It is. We'll call it the R-word. Homophobic is the new N-word. That's what it is. This is the type of politics that the Democrats have always practiced. And now, not only do the Democrats have their racial epithets that they can throw at people, racist, homophobic, their new N-words, they've also got their new KKK, and they call them Antifa. So all these things exist. But they talk about these things with high-minded notions of how wonderful it could be in very kumbaya ways. And Stéphane Molyneux, a wonderful guy that's a commentator on YouTube, and he fills in radio shows and he does a bunch of stuff, and he's a very smart dude. I don't know if he's in the United States or he's still in Canada, but he does a really good job. And the other day he made a point that I thought was really, really good. He was doing a podcast, sort of an interview podcast with a guy, and it was labeled The Death of Canada, Prepare Yourself Accordingly. And they got on, the guy said the guy he was interviewed said the word diversity. And in the course of this conversation, Stéphane decided to describe when the left uses the word diversity, it's actually code. And then he described what that code means.
Come on. I mean, we all say diversity, but it means non-whites. Let's be frank about that. I mean, nobody says, we're bringing a lot of people, white people from Belgium, that adds to our diversity, or we're bringing in a lot of people from Poland, that adds. It always and forever means non-whites. That's what diversity means. And this is, I'm not trying to do anything other than be very frank about what the word actually means. Europe is very diverse. Europe is look at how women are dressed across Europe versus how women are dressed across the Middle East. Europe is incredibly diverse. Different languages, different cultures, different religions, different histories, different dress, different music, different dances, different everything. Europe is incredibly diverse. And what does everyone say? Europe needs diversity. What does that mean? It means Europe needs non-whites. That's all it means.
That's all that it means. I hadn't thought about it in those terms before, but he's absolutely right. Diversity in today's day and age means no white people. That's what it is. Diversity in this day and age is a call for genocide. That's what it is. Diversity in this day and age is the new anti-Semitism against white people. Isn't that amazing? And the interesting thing about it too is, they bring up these group politics, women, they bring up homosexuals, they bring up blacks and other minority groups. And the truth is, and they think this group politics is so important, and they preach group politics, and you couldn't possibly understand unless you're a woman and all these things. But when there is a woman, or there is a homosexual, or there is a black person that disagrees with the liberal dogma, that person no longer has humanity. They're kicked out. They're nothing. They're evil. They're bad people. You shouldn't be listening to them. So it's not about those groups. It's not about their group politics at all. It's about their leftism. It's about their hate and disgust for all humanity and their desire for power and control. A piece from the Daily Wire. It's not okay. It's not just okay to dump Trump supporters as friends. It's imperative that you do so. This is according to a writer for Out magazine. Michael Musto is imploring people, gay people who have Trump-supporting gay friends, to drop those friends and shun them. It is your imperative. These are your marching orders to get rid of any friends that you might have that are gay that actually support Donald Trump. Just get rid of them. These are not real people. They don't have a right to their thoughts. They don't have a right to their mind. They're just horrific and awful. It's a lynching, my friends. It's a lynching. This is the modern day version of lynching. And this is sort of, call it a euphemistic lynching. Lynching in real terms, of course, is completely robbing someone of their life, removing them completely and totally from society. In this instance, you're creating walls of separation and keeping people out of your life. But the real lynching actually does happen on college campuses and different places all over the country where Antifa or just the people on the street are dragging Trump supporters out of the car and beating the hell out of them. That is a lynching. It's a racially motivated lynching. And that is what today's modern Democratic Party is all about. Just like the Democratic Party in the South. All right, that is it. Michael Newman wrapping up the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great afternoon. Please take the time, go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com, and you can get the links for all the stories we talked about on today's show. You can contact me via email. Check out my Twitter, Newmaniac1. You can check out the services link, and I can help you out with some sort of project you got going on. And, of course, support the show. Please tweet out, send out all the links. I really got to grow my social media platform and get this product to more eyeballs and more earballs. Do you have earballs? Anyway, get the product out there and then try to get people to support the show, man, because it's getting difficult to get by. Just click the support icon and you can help the show continue for as little as $1 a month. Have a great afternoon.
Wow, see ya!